إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله ما بعد. We continue inshallah the biography of the Prophet ﷺ, the book called the Rahiq al-Makhtoum, the sealed nectar by Sheikh Mubarak Furi rahimahullah. Today is the 4th of Ramadan 1445. So we saw yesterday the event of the elephant that was led by Abraha, who tried to destroy the Kaaba, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved it from destruction. And back to the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ, Abdul Muttalib, who was the grandfather of the Prophet ﷺ, had 10 sons: Al-Harith, Al-Zubair, Abu Talib, Abdullah, who was the father of the Prophet ﷺ, Hamza, Asadullah, the lion of Allah, Abu Lahab, who was also the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, Al-Ghidaq, Maqwan, Safar, and Al-Abbas radiallahu anhu. Some say that he had 11 sons, add in some names. They add that Abdul Kaaba is the same as Maqwam, and that Hajla is the same as Ghidaq. So there is not a consensus about the number of children that Abdul Muttalib had. And we saw before that he vowed to Allah that if he were to get 10 sons, he would sacrifice the 10th son for the sake of Allah as a means to thank him. So sometimes people, when they use their minds, they come up with weird solutions. Allah gives him children, and in order for him to thank Allah, he slaughters his children. This is the same thing that happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Some mushriks took the camels of zakat from the shepherd of the Prophet ﷺ in the surroundings of Medina, and killed the shepherd and took his wife as a prisoner. His wife managed to run away and escape on one of she camels of the zakat. So she vowed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if he were to save her, she would slaughter that she camel for the sake of Allah. So when she reached Medina, the Prophet ﷺ told her, number one, the camel doesn't belong to you. So why would you make a vow to slaughter something that doesn't belong to you? Number two, the camel helped you escape. So the way you reward her is by slaughtering her. So sometimes people that innovate bid'ah do. They use their minds, they think they're doing something good, but actually their innovation leaves them far away from Allah's mercy. So Abdullah was the father of the Prophet ﷺ. His mother was Fatima, that means the mother of Abdullah. The paternal grandmother of the Prophet ﷺ was Fatima, daughter of Amr bin Aida bin Imran bin Makhzum bin Yaqzah bin Murrah. Abdullah was the smartest of Abdul Muttalib's sons, the most chaste among them and the most loved one. He was also the son of the divination arrows pointed to be slaughtered as a sacrifice at Al-Kaaba. So basically the story is that we said that Abdul Muttalib vowed that if he had 10 children, he would slaughter the 10th son for the sake of Allah. When he went to slaughter this son, Abdullah, the Quraysh came to him, they told him, don't do that, because if you do it, it's going to become a sunnah for us, and all of us will slaughter the 10th son that Allah gives us. So he asked them for advice. They told him, again, go to the diviner and ask her for a solution. So the diviner told him, put an arrow with the name of Abdullah and an arrow with 10 camels, and then choose. If the arrow for Abdullah comes out, you change the other arrow. Instead of 10, you put 20 camels. If again the arrow for Abdullah comes out, you put 30 camels. So he kept on doing this until he reached 100 camels. So basically, finally, when he reached 100 camels, he drew the lot that had 100 camels. So he sacrificed 100 camels instead of sacrificing his son. And before that, the diya, like if you kill someone by mistake, you used to have to pay the sum of 10 camels. to the family of the person that you killed, if you killed him by mistake. But after this event, the diya became 100 camels. And when Islam came, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept the diya at 100 camels. So that's why the diya, if you kill a Muslim by mistake, is you have to pay his family 100 camels. Now multiply that in dollars and see how much that has to be. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala legislated the best of laws for the protection of Muslims. But nowadays you kill someone, you just go to jail for, I don't know however long you go to jail. These man-made laws. The person is dead, he is lost. The other person is in jail, he's lost. And no one is benefiting, because people use man-made laws instead of using Allah's laws. So this incident produced a change in the amount of blood money usually accepted in Arabia. It had been 10 camels before this event, but after this event it was increased to 100 camels. Islam later on approved of this. It was reported that Prophet ﷺ said, "Ana ibnu dhabihayn, yani Ismail wa abahu Abdullah." The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, "I am the offspring, the son of the two slaughtered ones," meaning Ismail alayhi salam, because Ibrahim alayhi salam was going to sacrifice Ismail for the sake of Allah, because he saw that in a dream as a revelation, and dreams of prophets are a revelation. This applies to all prophets, Ibrahim alayhi salam and Muhammad alayhi salam. Also Yusuf alayhi salam, if you remember the story, he saw a dream. So dreams for prophets are revelation from a means of revelation for prophets. So Abdullah, the father of the Prophet ﷺ, was going to get slaughtered by his father, and also the grandfather, the great grandfather of the Prophet ﷺ, Ismail, was going to be slaughtered by Ibrahim alayhi salam. Now Abdul Muttalib chose Amina, daughter of Wahb bin Abdul Manaf bin Zuhra bin Kilab, as a wife for his son Abdullah. So here Abdul Muttalib chose a wife for his son. This is the way it used to be, and that was the best practice. Because usually when parents choose for their children, they choose based on a lot of criteria. Because a father has lived a long life. He has dealt with women. He has filtered good from bad. So when he chooses a wife for his son, he's using logic, he's using a mind. A son basically is just starting in life. He goes and he sees this drawings of Cupid, and he thinks that love is what marriage is based upon. So he falls in love with someone. It's not really love, it's more lust. Then he gets married to her, and the love that was before marriage disappears after marriage, and divorce happens. Love usually comes after marriage, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَهُمَا مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. This is why the divorce rate in the Muslim world today is in the double-digit percentage mark. For our forefathers, it was almost unheard of, especially that they were able to marry more than one, without any problems. Nowadays, you do it, they put you in the newspaper. The United Nations makes some laws against you because you decided to get married to more than one wife. So times change, and the problem is not really the times. The problem is that Muslims start following these evil times and not following the correct way. So Abdul Muttalib chose Amina as a wife for his son Abdullah. Abdullah, thus, in the light of this ancestral lineage, stood eminent in respect of nobility of position and descent. Amina's father was the chief of Bani Zahra, so she was a noble woman as well, to whom great honor was attributed. They were married in Mecca, and soon after, Abdullah was sent by his father to buy dates in Medina, where he, Abdullah, died. In another version, Abdullah went to Syria on a trade journey and died in Medina on his way back. By the way, Medina, before the migration of the Prophet ﷺ, was a city that had a lot of plagues and a lot of diseases. It's the Prophet ﷺ who made a dua for Medina, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cleared it and cleaned it, to the point that even when Abu Bakr and Bilal radiallahu anhu immigrated from Mecca to Medina, they got sick. So Medina was known for its plague, but the Prophet ﷺ made dua. Next section is Muhammad Sallallahu Muhammad's birth and 40 years prior to prophethood. By the way, the lesson usually is 20 minutes, so so that you know what to expect. His birth. Muhammad ﷺ was the master of prophets. He was born in the Bani Hashim section of Mecca on Monday morning. This is well known. Prophet ﷺ was born on Monday, and he celebrated his birthday by fasting every Monday. So those who want to celebrate the birthday of the Prophet ﷺ, it's not one day a year you take the music and start shaking your head. This is not how you celebrate the birthday of the Prophet ﷺ. You fast every Monday. You want to celebrate his birthday? Fast every Monday. That's how you celebrate it. So he was born on a Monday. Okay? He was born on a Monday, and he also died on a Monday, alayhi salatu. He was born in the 9th day of Rabi'ul Awwal. So the 12th of Rabi'ul Awwal, as most people think it is not really the most likely day of birth of the Prophet. 12th of Rabi'ul Awwal is one of the statements of the scholars, but it's a weak statement. The more correct statement is that he was born alayhi on the 9th day of Rabi'ul Awwal. The same year of the elephant incident that we spoke about, and 40 years into the reign of Kisra. Khosrow Nushirwan. Kisra was the ruler of Persia. The 20th or 22nd of April, 571 CE. Muslims, we don't use AD, because AD means after the death of Isa alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not die. CE means Christ elevated. So Muslims, especially us living here, we don't use AD. AD means after death. Isa didn't die alayhi salam. It's CE, Christ elevated. So 571 CE is when the Prophet was born, according to the scholar Muhammad Sulaiman al-Mansur Puri and the astronomer Mahmud Pasha. In other words, they made some calculations to bring back the date corresponding to the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. Ibn Sa'd reported that Muhammad ﷺ's mother Amina said, when he was born ﷺ, there was a light that issued out of my underneath me. So when the Prophet ﷺ was born, a light emanated from underneath her and lit the palaces of Syria. Ahmad and Ad-Darimi reported something similar to this. It was reported that significant signs accompanied his birth ﷺ. So when he was born, it was said that 14 balconies of Kisra's palace collapsed, the Magan sacred fire they used to worship went out, and some churches on Lake Sawa sank down and collapsed. This is recorded by At-Tabari, Al-Bayhaqi and others, but none of the chains of narration are confirmed. So when you hear these statements, it might be true, it may not be true. Okay, the fact that we hear about the fire being put out, etc., it's not authenticated. These statements are not authenticated. It is being said, its chain of narration is not authentic. His mother immediately sent someone to inform his grandfather Abdul Muttalib of the happy event. Happily, he came to her because this was his grandson, and his son Abdullah, who was the most beloved one to him, and he had died, and this is his son. So you can imagine how much he would love the Prophet ﷺ. So he carried him to Al-Kaaba, prayed to Allah, and thanked him for giving him this grandson. Abdul Muttalib called the baby Muhammad, a name not then common among the Arabs. First one to be named this name is Prophet ﷺ, Muhammad, the praised one. And he is actually mentioned by name in the previous scriptures. In the Hindu scriptures, in the Jewish scriptures, he is called Muhammad that means Sir Muhammad. So he ﷺ was foretold in many of the previous scriptures as a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to these people, so that they can easily believe in Muhammad ﷺ, unless they follow the worldly benefits and they reject him ﷺ. The first woman who suckled the Prophet ﷺ after his mother was Thuwayba, the freed slave of Abu Lahab. As a matter of fact, she was a slave of Abu Lahab. You know Abu Lahab, that we say Tabbat Abu Lahab and we curse him. He was happy the Prophet ﷺ was born, to the point that he set his slave free, Thuwayba, because he was happy. But then later on, subhanallah, because of dunya, he rejected his message. So Abu Lahab freed his slave girl, Thuwayba, after the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. And as the Prophet ﷺ said, because of this deed, Allah will make his punishment lessened on Mondays. The punishment of Abu Lahab will be lessened on Mondays because he freed his slave Thuwayba out of happiness that Prophet ﷺ was born. You can research this news because I know it may come as a shock to you. He's still in the hellfire. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His mercy, He doesn't want anything to owe anyone something. So He did this good gesture. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to reward him for it by lessening the punishment on Mondays. So she was the first one to suckle him with her son Masruh. She also had suckled Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib. So Hamza radiallahu anh is the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ and also his brother from suckling. Before and later, Abu Salama bin Abdul Asad al-Makhzumi. Remember Salama? her husband, Abu Sallam radiallahu anhu, who had died in the Battle of Badr, he was also the brother of the Prophet ﷺ by suckling. Okay, so these are important relationships between some of the companions and the Prophet ﷺ. Childhood. It was a general custom of the Arabs living in towns to send their children away to Bedouin wet nurses so that they may grow up in the free and healthy surroundings of the desert. Because Mecca was a destination for all of Arabia, so it's normal for people to bring diseases with them, right? So people used to be afraid for their children catching a rare disease. Also, they were afraid for their tongues to not be pure. So they sent them to the Bedouins to learn the pure Arabic language and also to grow up in a healthy environment. This is why many of the earlier scholars, when they were not sure about certain words in the Quran, they would go and hang out with the Bedouins and learn from them the pure Arabic, because this Quran was revealed in the pure Arabic language, and the Bedouins were the ones that kept this language intact. So this was their custom, that they would send children away to wet nurses so that they might grow up in the free and healthy surroundings of the desert. Thereby, they would develop a strong body and acquire the pure speech and manners of the Bedouins, who were noted for both chastity of their language, because foreigners do not mix with them, and for being free from those vices which usually develop in inactive societies, the bad things we find in the cities. The Prophet ﷺ was later entrusted to Halima, the one that we know as Halima as-Sa'diyah, from the tribe of Bani Sa'd bin Bakr. Her husband was Al-Harith bin Abdul Uzza, called Abu Kabsha. Abu Kabsha was his nickname, from the same tribe. So both Halima and her husband were from the same tribe. Muhammad ﷺ had several foster brothers and sisters. Abdullah bin Al-Harith, Anisa bint Al-Harith, Hudafa or Judama bint Al-Harith, known also as Shayma, and she used to take care of the Prophet ﷺ, and Abu Sufyan bin Al-Harith bin Abd al-Muttalib, the Prophet's cousin. Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu, the father of Muawiyah, is the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ. So they're also related by blood. Hamza bin Abd al-Muttalib, the Prophet's uncle, was also suckled by the same two wet nurses, the Thuwayba and also Halima. Thuwayba and Halima as-Sa'diyah, who suckled the Prophet. Traditions delightfully relate how Halima and the whole of her household were favored by successive strokes of good fortune, while the baby Muhammad ﷺ lived under her care. Ibn Ishaq states that Halima narrated. Now Halima is saying the story of how she got hold of the Prophet ﷺ to suckle him and the good things that happened to her. She said, it was a year of drought and famine. We had nothing to eat. She said, I rode on a brown mule. We also had with us an old she-camel. So a brown mule, an old she-camel. By Allah, we could not get even a drop of milk from this she-camel. We could not have a wink of sleep during the night because their child was crying because of hunger. There was not enough milk in my breast, and even the she-camel had nothing to feed him. We used to constantly pray for rain and immediate relief. By the way, these people were polytheists. Polytheists mean they had many gods, including Allah. So they still made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So believing in Allah is not enough. It's worshiping Allah alone is the goal of all prophets. So some people say, well, the Christians believe in Allah. Well, the Hindus believe in Allah. They call him Brahma. They believe in one creator. That's not enough. You have to worship him alone. You have to worship Allah alone. So even the polytheists used to worship Allah too, and worship other things. They used to give crops, dedicate a portion of their crop to Allah, and other portion to the statues. And also they used to worship statues so that the statues can get them closer to Allah. مَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ إِلَّا لِيُقَرِّبُونَ إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفَى. So this is an important thing to stress. So these people, even though they were polytheists, they made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for rain. So they finally reached Mecca looking for children to suckle. Not even a single woman among us accepted Allah's Messenger ﷺ offered to her. Why? Because he was an orphan. So they basically suckled the babies for money, right? For money or for other benefits. So they said this little kid, is an orphan. What can his grandfather really give for him, right? So nobody wanted the Prophet ﷺ. Look, subhanAllah. As soon as they were told that he was an orphan, they refused him. So Halima said, we had fixed our eyes on the reward that we would get from the child's father. An orphan, what his grandfather and mother are likely to do? So we refused to accept him because of that. Every woman who came with me got a suckling baby. And when we were about to depart, I said to my husband, this Halima talking, she said, by Allah, I do not like to go back along with the other women without any baby. I should go to that orphan and I must take him. So he said, there is no harm in doing so, and perhaps Allah might bless us through him. Halima continues, she said, so I went and took him because there was simply no other alternative left for me. So she took him just because there was no other baby for her to take. So when I lifted him in my arms and returned to my place, I put him on my breast, and to my great surprise, I found enough milk in it. So he, alayhi, drank to his heart's content, and so did his foster brother, and then both of them went to sleep, although my baby had not been able to sleep the previous night. My husband then went to the she-camel to milk it, and to his astonishment, he found plenty of milk in it. So basically, the she-camel that had no milk, her breast that had no milk, when she got hold of Prophet ﷺ, Allah put barakah on all these things, and she was able to breastfeed the Prophet ﷺ to his fill, and also her son to his fill, plus the camel had milk. So her husband said, by Allah, O Halima, you must understand that you have gotten a blessed child. And I replied, by the grace of Allah, I hope so. So we stop here today and we continue tomorrow, inshallah.